Today's lesson is called Finding the Message and Moral. Our learning target for today is, I am learning to identify, which also means find, the lesson or message that a story teaches me. Our success criteria, I will know that I am successful when I can find and explain the message or lesson in a story. Pause this video now and reread the learning target and success criteria for today. What do you think you will be doing today? Let's review some important narrative story elements. Turn and talk to your partner or stop and think. What is a moral or message of a story? And what are the problem and solution of the story? Well, a moral or message in a story is the lesson that the author wants you to learn from that story. The problem is a problem the characters have or something that the characters are trying hard to do. The solution is how the characters solve their problem. Think about all the different narrative story elements we've talked about at the beginning of the year. There are characters, there's a setting, there's always a plot, which includes your problem and solution. So today, let's focus on the message or the moral by understanding the problem and the solution. In order to find and explain the message, which we also call a moral or a lesson, step 1, first we find the problem. What is going wrong for the characters in the story? 2, then we find the solution to the problem, which means how they solve it. 3, finally, we can find what lesson that we and the characters can learn from this. We meaning in our own lives. So take a look at our map down here at the bottom. Begin with identifying the problem in the story, which will lead to a solution of the story, which isn't always a happy one. Keep that in mind. Then it should lead us to the lesson that we learned from the story, which is known as the moral, the lesson, or the message. One way we can find the message and moral of a story is to think about what the problem in the story is and how it is solved. Think back to the book that we read a while back, Ish by Peter Reynolds. If you can't remember the story Ish, you can also look in Google Classroom or your presentation while you are out, and it should have a quick read aloud of Ish just so that you can remember what happened. The main character's name was Ramon. What was Ramon's problem? How was it solved? What did we learn from what happened to Ramon? Here you'll see a graphic organizer. It's a 3-column chart where I will talk about the problem, the solution, the lesson, and the message. His problem was that he wanted his drawings to be perfect, but he can't seem to get them the perfect way he wants, so he's frustrated and upset. The solution was, his problem is solved when he realizes that his sister loves his drawings and doesn't care if they're perfect and look exactly realistic. He learns that his drawings can be beautiful, even if they're not perfect, even if they're just ish. For example, it's a flower-ish, close to a flower. So the moral or message is, things don't have to be perfect and be beautiful and valued. So this is a lesson that you as a person, as the reader, can learn, which will help you in your own life. And in this story, the character just happened to have learned it as well. So let's practice. Read the story in The Ant and the Grasshopper. I will also read it out loud. Then, pause for a moment and think, what is the problem, the solution, and the moral? Then, we will look at this graphic organizer, and you will tell yourself the problem, the solution, and the lesson and message. The Ant and the Grasshopper, an Aesop fable. Remember, a fable is where the characters act like humans, because even though they're animals, they can talk and have conversations. Fables are also passed down through generations and generations, and they always have a lesson or moral. The Ant and the Grasshopper. In a field, one summer's day, a grasshopper was chirping, singing, and hopping about for fun. An ant passed by carrying an ear of corn back to his nest. "Why not come and chat with me?" said the grasshopper, "instead of doing all that work?" "I am helping to store up food for the winter," said the ant, "and suggest you do the same." "Why bother about winter?" said the grasshopper. "We have got plenty of food at the moment." The ant went on its way and continued its work. When the winter came, the grasshopper had no food and was dying of hunger. The ant, however, had plenty of food to last all through this winter from his hard work in the summer. Then the grasshopper knew. It is best to be prepared. If you look down here, this Aesop fable just happens to tell you the lesson and moral of the message here at the bottom. Not all stories will do that. So let's think. Pause this video right now and tell yourself, what is the problem, the solution, and the moral? If you would like to take notes on a sheet of paper, you can. Redraw this graphic organizer and write down your thoughts. Okay, so what is the problem? The problem is the grasshopper didn't want to do work and prepare and store up food like the ant did. Then, if you think about the ant, the problem was that grasshopper tried to distract him, right? As far as the solution goes, the solution's a little tricky. The grasshopper's solution to his problem, he ended up not having enough food since he didn't store it. For the ant, this ant's solution was that she or he had plenty of food because they actually worked hard to store up the food for the winter. So the lesson message of this story that you as the reader can learn about and take in your own life is, it's best to be prepared. That is not the only lesson or moral that you can get from this story. Did you think of something else? Sometimes when I read this, I also think that it's important to work hard. The moral of this story is that it is better to work hard and be prepared than be lazy and unprepared. So think about it. There can be more than one lesson or moral, as long as you can support it. So now let's practice with a real book. Your teacher will choose a read aloud to use and practice finding the problem and solution, and using them to find the message or lesson. You can fill out a graphic organizer like the one on the next slide to record your ideas. So today we will be reading a story called The Dot. If you were not here today, you can also listen to the story read aloud from your While You Were Out slides, or you can go to Google Classroom to find it. Then you will also fill out the graphic organizer through Kami. If you were in class today, we will be filling out the graphic organizer on paper. Okay, show me your best. Remember, we are using the problem and the solution to help us find the lesson and message or moral of the story.